In a moment we'll be catching up with Ewan as he joins a team of researchers trying to establish the health of Scotland's population of mountain hares. They are beautiful creatures, but not always the easiest to spot. But first, here's what else is coming up on the programme. I investigate the impact the poor summer may be having on the health of our beef cattle.
You'd lose body condition, there'd be a knock-on effect come calving time. You'd obviously have calves at possibly lower birth weight, cows that had lower milk production levels, so it's a huge knock-on effect all the way through.
Sarah finds out how to make leather goods from salmon.
So salmon leather, it's the second strongest leather in the world. You've also got, it takes a short period of time, it's only about a week to tan.
And Nick is in Ayr Toon Centre with the Landward food van.
Best Scottish cheese in the show. Yes. This is Barway's Dairy. Brilliant mature cheddar.
First, mountain hare are a native species, but we don't know how many there are of them. That's causing problems for landowners and conservation bodies, as Ewan's been finding out.
The mountain hare is a truly beautiful animal, turning from brown to white in winter to give it perfect camouflage on the snowy Scottish hills. And they thrive on grouse moors, where active management leads to lots of young heather for them to eat and few predators.
But hares can cause problems. They damage trees, eat crops, and some gamekeepers believe they spread ticks and disease to grouse. So every year, tens of thousands of hares are legally shot for sport and population control. But the problem is, nobody knows just how many hares we have in Scotland, and if too many are being killed unnecessarily.
But in order to find out just how many hares there are, scientists need to know how best to count them. And it's no easy task.
Scott, how you doing?
Good morning, Ewan. Nice to meet you.
So we're going to get some traps, are we?
Yeah, we've got 100 traps out on here. Yeah, we're not going to...
Scott Newey from the James Hutton Institute is testing the success of trapping as a method of counting.
So why is it so difficult to get an estimate for the size of the population?
Well, mountain hares are largely nocturnal. During the daytime, they tend to lie up in the heather and keep out of sight. So they show these huge changes in numbers from year to year. So over the course of 9 to 10 years, their populations can change from a few hares per square kilometre up to hundreds of hares per square kilometre.
Because of the uncertainty over hare numbers, some conservation groups have been calling for a temporary ban on culling. So far, sporting estates have resisted that suggestion.
They can get a bit stressed when we approach the trap.
On the hill, we have our first hare.
They can go quite quickly when they go, so okay, I'll take it. And
Wow.
okay, so this is a recapture. You can see the clear tags in the ear.
Pretty unfazed. Okay. About being quick.
Okay.
Next, Scott checks the ear tags. He'll also check its sex, measure its hind foot, and weigh it. Once the examination's over, it's time to let the hare go. In total, 4 were caught overnight in Scott's traps. His next counting method isn't quite so cute though. It's dung.
Okay, so what are you looking for?
Okay, so we're looking for and counting and removing all of the hair pellets, but we also remove all the other different types of pellets that are here.
So which is which? I've got a selection, kind of long, thin ones.
So that's the red grouse.
And the round, solid ones.
And that's the mountain hare.
We're going to leave Scott to finish checking his hare poo, because the next counting method happens at night.
Well, here we are, still on the hill. It's dark, it's windy, and it's cold. And for this technique, we're going to use one of these.
And my guide for this is Kathy Fletcher from the Game and Wildlife Conservation Trust.
You can usually see eye shine off them.
So how effective is this lamping technique?
Well, it's proven quite effective, but you can only see maybe about 100 metres.
So presumably this is kit and techniques that farmers, gamekeepers will be using all the time?
Yeah, lamps are quite common. Quite often they're attached to the vehicles, but because not all the areas that you might want to survey for hares have vehicle tracks, we're trying the method just with a handheld lamp.
Okay, so onward up the hill.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we don't have any luck with the lamp tonight, but we're not beaten yet. Time for the next method.
Well, this is a bit more like it. Thermal imaging cameras SAS stuff out in the hillside. Terrific.
So we're looking for the heat signature of the hares. So in this, the setting it's on at the moment, black is the hot. So we're looking for a black blob. It could also be grouse roosting. So if it stays stationary, we don't count it. But if it moves like hops like a bunny, then we'd write it down as a hare.
So why is this better with this piece of kit than lamping, apart from being more fun and more expensive?
Yes, our experience so far is that you can see further with the thermal imaging than with a lamp. So we get a better idea of the number of hares, obviously being able to see more of the population.
And as we scan the landscape, we catch sight of the elusive hare. It might only be a small black fuzzy dot, but it's exciting all the same.
I've had a great day out in the hill today, looking at all the different techniques for surveying hares. But it's early days yet in this project. It's still got a year to go before we finally find out the best technique for counting hare numbers. And in the meantime, the controversy over hare culling continues.
Back in the summer at the Royal Highland Show, we got to taste and enjoy the winning entry in the best specialty cheese competition. Our Nick is so passionate about local cheeses that he wanted to weave his magic with some in the food van. So he headed on down to Maybole to collect the champion cheese.
Great cheese needs great milk, and to get great milk, you need great cows. But you need more than that. To make truly great cheese, you need dedication, passion, and be willing to take a few risks. There's no doubt that Trisha Bay has all three of these qualities in spades. She was a high-flying London-based businesswoman until deciding that a life in the country making cheese was just what she wanted. Trisha, hi. Good to meet you again.
Yeah. See you, yeah.
So these are your cattle.
Yep.
Tell me a little bit about them.
So these are all pedigree Ayrshire cows, and I started building the herd in 2008, and now we've got up to a nice size. We've got mothers and daughters and granddaughters here in the herd milking this morning.
Why Ayrshire's?
So when I was building the dairy, I was trying to resurrect our traditional cheese making here in Ayrshire, and of course in the old days all the cows would have been Ayrshire's. But I was also blessed by the fact that these cows, this breed, produces beautiful milk, a really, really good quality milk, and cheesemakers all over the world say that actually it's the best milk for cheese, so I'm very lucky in that respect.
Milking complete, it's time to visit the dairy. Trisha helped design this, and despite making her first cheese just 5 years ago, she's a quick learner. Not sure I can say the same about me, though. So, what are we doing now?
So
Why am I stirring?
So what we're doing now is we'll put the rennet into the milk, and the rennet is the enzyme that will start to coagulate the milk, and so it will start to form a curd, and that will start really the main cheese making process.
How did you learn how to do this?
So I went to learn with a very wise cheese maker up near the Kyle of Loch Alsh. And so I learnt the very basics of cheese making there, but as she says, and everyone would say, all you're doing is learning sort of the mechanics of the process there. And it's not really until you start working with your own milk do you really start learning what your cheese is going to do.
And there's certainly a lot of working with the milk to be done. It's a hot and steamy business, and you definitely won't need the gym after a day working here. The whole cheese making process takes about 6.5 hours. There's separating the curds and whey, cheddaring, and putting it on the press. And this is where the cheese gets to mature, sitting in here for between 12 and 15 months before checking to see if they're ready.
We're looking at the smell, we're looking at the texture of the cheese, and then of course what the flavour is like, so, and to see whether we think it's ready to be released. So it comes out like this.
Wow, the colour is yellow.
I know. The clover and the green summer grass comes through into the milk, and then as it matures, that kind of yellow chlorophyll intensifies in it and you get this beautiful bright yellow cheese.
That is delicious.
Oh.
Really complex, rounded, great finish to it. You know, it's there's nothing jaggy in there. It's very, very well made.
And there's a lot more where that came from.
As I travel round Scotland, I'm always thrilled to meet people who take great pride in the food that we produce. But to people like Tricia, it's more than just food. It's culture, it's history, it's a way of life. And I would love to think that the people of Scotland would eat more artisan-made cheeses like this. So later in the programme, I'm going to be serving up some cheesy treats to the good citizens of Ayr.
If you know of any great Scottish producers you think should feature on the programme, get in touch via our Facebook page or email landward@bbc.co.uk. As we travel about Scotland, we like to stop and ask the folk we meet on the street what they love about the local area. As we're in Ayrshire this week, we've come to the town after which the county is named, Ayr. Now, I'm convinced there's some sort of connection to a famous Scottish writer with this place, but I can't think for the life of me who it is. What's the name of the famous writer from here? No? Okay. Thanks for your help. Who's the famous writer that's associated with Ayr?
No, Robert Burns, obviously.
Robbie Burns. Robert Burns, I would say.
So who's the most famous person from Ayr?
Robbie Burns. Robert Burns is, but they don't make a huge thing about Robert Burns in Ayr.
What sort of things do you think I should experience? If I've never been here before, if I've got one day or a couple of hours, what should I do before leaving?
Good grief. Well, there's always the Tam O'Shanter pub with the thatched roof.
You need to go to the beach. The beach is fantastic in Ayr, it really is, it's beautiful.
I would go to Prestwick if I was going for something to eat.
That's
Sorry.
awful, doesn't it?
Enjoyed the programme of School.
Well, thank you. To get the Ayr experience that you must, it's like you must do this, you must experience this, you must taste this, you must drink this, or whatever.
Yeah.
What should I do?
Where do you come from, Dougie?
I come from Inchinnan in Renfrewshire.
I'd go back to Inchinnan if I was you.
Now, I think this is one of the best things about Ayr. Corney and Barrow wine merchant, established in 1766, 10 years before America declared independence. I would like to imagine that Robert Burns used to come down here sharing a glass of wine with his pals nearly 200 years ago. It's a lovely thought, isn't it? We'll be back in Ayr later, but now we're heading across country to find Sarah in Dundee with a very fishy tale.
There are lots of things you can do with fish. Catch them, eat them, make cute movies about finding them. But what about wearing them?
Here in Dundee, that's exactly what they're doing, turning salmon skins into leather.
Peter? Hello.
Good morning, how are you doing? I
Good.
won't shake your hand because I think you're covered in fish
Understandable,
scales.
yeah.
Peter Ananin is the founder of the Tayside Tannery.
So today we're going to be showing you how to make fish leather, basically.
Is this the first step?
This is the first step where we're taking off the scales, and I've got some prepared for you as well.
I'm going to get a shot,
You're
I?
going to get a shot as well.
Right, fab.
So here's your
right,
skin.
you'll talk me through it, I know.
And your gloves, and I'm going to give you this knife.
Definitely need the gloves.
Yep.
Right. So why salmon leather?
So salmon leather, it's the second strongest leather in the world. You've also got that it takes a short period of time. It's only about a week to tan, and we can use local tanning agents from oak bark and peat as well.
Fantastic.
So basically, what you're doing is you're going against the grain.
So is that this way?
That's it. Yep.
I can't really tell.
Yep. So and then you'll see the scales will kind of flake off. One way they won't, one way they will.
Okay.
And you're basically just going along like that.
And why did you decide to base yourselves in Dundee?
So we're based in Dundee. Part of the thing is that we're trying to use waste products. So locally up in Arbroath, we get the waste fish skins from the smoked salmon industry. So they're normally thrown away. The other reason we picked kind of Dundee was that it's got such a rich kind of historical past of the industry and kind of crafts. So wanting to revive these things.
Fantastic.
Yes, Dundee isn't only famous for jute, jam and journalism, leather making was also an important trade. As early as the 1500s, the glovers and shoemakers were creating quality goods. In the 19th century, local tanneries produced leather belts to help drive the weaving machines. And Dundee's whalers also hunted seals, whose skins were turned into leather by an enterprising shipbuilder.
What are we trying to make today?
So today we're going to do something nice and simple. We're going to make a bracelet. So I've got some of the ones that I've been making here. So you're going to make one like that.
Oh,
yeah.
That's
nice and simple. Nice and simple to get you started.
Right. How am I doing?
Looks good. Yep.
Am I?
Yep.
There's fish.
Good.
There's scales everywhere.
Yeah, that's all right. Don't worry. It's just practice.
Once the scales have been removed, the skins are washed, put into tanning drums, recycled washing machines, hung up to dry, softened, and then they're ready to use.
So next thing is you're going to cut it out. So I've already drawn this out for you. So there's your scissors.
Right, get cutting.
Yep.
So what other products do you make?
So some of the other products that we've been making are some fish skin wallets. We've been making knife sheaths for kind of traditional ski and do's. That's made locally. We've been making some earrings as well. Nice earrings.
I know it's part of a social enterprise, so it's quite a small scale at the moment. I mean, what is the ultimate aim? Global domination with salmon leather?
No, not at all. It's cottage industry, which is what we're really trying to revive, providing people with local jobs, using local resources and keeping it local, really.
Then we attach the toggle, measure the size, and ta-da!
Thank you, Peter.
You've done a great job.
So there you have it, a one-of-a-kind mat creation. It's a craft that uses waste products, it revives an old trade and brings rural skills back to the city.
From salmon to a more traditional source of leather goods, cattle. Earlier in the series, we heard that Orcadian farmers were having to ship cattle off the island because they didn't have enough grazing. Now, on the mainland, I've been hearing about another problem caused by the bad weather earlier in the year. In these bales and in the pit behind covered in tyres is silage, which is essentially pickled grass, and that's used to feed livestock during the long and cold winter months. To make silage, grass is cut in the summer and then either baled or wrapped in plastic or compressed in a silage pit to keep the air out. Keeping the air out is vital. In oxygen-free conditions, bacteria turns the sugars in the grass into acids. The grass ferments, turning into silage, and is thus preserved for use throughout the winter. Good morning, how's it going?
All right, yourself?
Yeah, very well.
Good.
Graham Lofthouse farms near Galashiels in the Borders. What have we got here?
Cows just getting fed the silage this morning, so breakfast time basically.
How important is silage to keeping them kind of, balance of the nutrients balanced during the winter months?
Yeah, it's imperative. I mean, we're looking for these cows to be in perfect body condition right through the winter. Ideally, we want them to be nice and fit like this big cow in front of us here, lose a bit of body condition through the winter. And then we're wanting them to calve down what we call a body condition score 2.5, which is not too lean, not too fat, just perfect for calving, so they're able to produce a lot of colostrum for their calves at birth. So yeah, the nutrition's imperative to us.
Now, as a farmer,
yeah,
silage is homemade.
Yes, it is.
Therefore, you don't have to buy it.
No, we don't.
So I would imagine it's hugely important for your business point of view as well.
Yeah, it is the cheapest feed we have on farm. It's home produced in itself. It's also not very expensive to produce for ourselves. But if it's low in energy or low in protein, then that does cause problems.
And this year, lots of silage is really low in protein. The cold spring is thought to be the major cause. Basil Lauman is from the farming advisory body SAC Consulting.
Cattle, sheep, even horses, just like us, require protein if they're to thrive and perform well.
Why in particular is that a major issue then?
Because we can't really easily, by looking at silage, tell how high it is in protein. And as an example, I've got two samples here. And I've got to read the label because they're so similar. That one is high, as a high protein level, would meet all the requirements of cattle, sheep and what have you. And this one is a very low protein silage. And it's impossible to tell by sniffing them,
smell the same,
looking at them, wringing them out, whatever you like. what the protein content is. It's interesting that it's not the cattle who are going to starve, it's the bugs in their rumen. If you like, cattle are just big vats bubbling away like a brewer, breaking down the silage, and it's the byproducts of these bugs which actually feed the cattle.
Without enough protein, the cow's whole digestive system can grind to a halt, and the poor beasts can become stuffed with undigested food. That's why farmers are being urged to test their silage.
The only way really to get an answer quickly enough to stop the animals suffering in terms of poor performance and possibly even dying is to actually get the silage analysed as soon as possible, and in particular pay attention to its protein content.
And that's exactly what I'm doing now. With a little help, I'm collecting a sample of Graham's silage to be analysed at the SAC's lab near Pennycook. Willie, how are you?
Not bad.
Good to see you. I've got my sample here from Bankhouse Farm.
Right.
Willie Gibson is in charge of testing. What's the next process
We've
then?
got to open up the sample, empty it out, thoroughly mix it. So do you want to do that yourself?
I could do it, yes, why not? After a good mix, the silage is formed into a cling film sausage, and we put it into a special scanner that assesses the sample. While we wait for the results, animal nutritionist Colin Worth explains why low-protein silage costs farmers.
In a normal year, they would be feeding their silage to appetite and then topping that up with some barley. This year, because the silage is lower in protein, they're going to have to be thinking about, yes, using some barley, but also some protein supplements.
And that can be pricey.
Protein is expensive, that's the thing. You know, usually it's homegrown cereals you buy in the protein, so that's the expensive part of the ration.
So, will Graham be laying out extra cash? The results are in, and the sample had 7% protein. Not great news for Graham. He was hoping for between 13 and 15%, so he will have to buy in extra supplements. The real worry, though, is for farmers who do not test their silage. The message is clear: get it tested, or your livestock could suffer the consequences. For the rest of you, though, bet you never knew that grass could be so complicated. Just a little science for you to ruminate over. From beef cattle to the product of Ayrshire's dairy cows, with Nick and the Landward food van.
The Landward food van is out on the road again. Our mission to bring the best produce of the Scottish countryside to the public. We've set up shop right here in the heart of the historic town of Ayr. This week, I'm going to create a cheesy feast with some of that delicious Barway's cheese I collected earlier in the programme. And as ever, I'm joined by my omnipresent kitchen assistant, Dougie.
Delighted to be here.
Cast your mind back to the Royal Highland Show. Best Scottish cheese in the show.
Yes.
This is Barway's Dairy. Brilliant mature cheddar.
We know it's fantastic, so stick it on a cheese board, just let people taste it.
You could do that. So what I'm going to do is make a cheese sauce, very thick cheese sauce, let it set, cut it out, panny it, so panny is to put it in breadcrumbs, deep fry it so it's crisp on the outside and it melts again on the inside. Yeah?
Fantastic.
Now, for this, I need a lot of grated cheese. You may be sometime.
I will be sometime.
Meanwhile, I am going to make a cheese sauce. First of all, you need to make a roux. Melt the butter over a low heat. And the secret of a good roux is to use more butter than flour. Most recipes would say equal quantities, but if you use slightly more butter, you get a flat mix that lies in the bottom of the pan and allows you to cook the flour in the butter, so that when you add the liquid, the roux is fully cooked out. So what we're going to do is going to cook this for about 2 or 3 minutes until the colour of the flour starts to slightly darken.
All the cheese? Nick?
All of the cheese, yes, so have to. Not just a wee TV bit.
I thought this was going to be easy. Okay, carrying on.
So at this point, we add the milk and whisk like billy oil. And you want to keep going. And cold milk, always cold milk. If you use hot milk, it sets straight away. Now this is going to be a really, really, really thick sauce.
Wow. That's very quick.
Yeah, it's because I cooked the flour out. So this is what we're looking for, a really nice, thick cheese sauce. And to that, I'm going to add a little bit of creme fraiche. And we're now ready to add the cheese. A handful at a time, if you don't mind.
A delicate handful?
No, just a big muckle.
Big wallop.
Big wallop. Keep going.
We're going to run out of cheese because I keep eating it. With the addition of some mustard and a little Worcestershire sauce, the cheese sauce is ready to pour. After half an hour in the fridge, the slab of cheese sauce is ready to be cut into cubes. Floured, egged and breadcrumbed, it's time for the fun bit, deep frying.
So what we want to do is we want to fry them until they're lovely, crisp and golden on the outside, but soft in the middle. And a bit come here.
Oh, they look fantastic.
Now,
I'm not going to eat that immediately.
Don't eat them straight out of the fry. You need to let them cool down for at least 2 or 3 minutes.
Oh my goodness.
Quite hot.
Right. Amazingly crispy on the outside. And that cheese just, oh, that's amazing. Huge flavour. Absolutely brilliant.
Fantastic. Let's go and see what the good citizens of Ayr make of their champion cheese. Lead on, young man. Put your hand there. Thank you.
Oh, look at all the cheese. Oh, lovely cheese. Oh, it's cheese and it's delicious.
And it's the right temperature too, thank you.
Absolutely delicious, so it's first class.
Delicious. Tell me what you think.
Cheddar cheese?
A bit like cheddar cheese?
This is our lunch today.
All right, well, just a light lunch for you. Oh, look at that. Look at that molten cheese. Oh,
Well, that's absolutely
delicious.
worth the wait.
Definitely.
He takes ages in the kitchen, that Nick there, doesn't he?
And I think you've eaten a lot of cheese.
Oh, you eat it quite quickly.
A big mouth.
Is that your friend? Not anymore. Not anymore. I think it's fair to say a resounding success.
100% success rate. Loved by old and young alike.
That is amazing.
Now, this was a fantastic award-winning local cheese, but there are loads of fantastic dairies across Scotland that you could do exactly the same thing with the cheese from your region.
Yeah, search them out. Well worth the effort. And that is it for this week's programme. Here's what's coming up next time around. In a special edition of Landward, we're looking at what the proposed changes to land ownership may mean for all of us, from the largest private landowner in Scotland to the communities who are campaigning for reform. It's the biggest change in land ownership in decades. Please join us for that and so much more at the same time next week. So from all the Landward team, from Nick and myself, from Ayr.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
After a challenging